Hey guys, good morning, evening, afternoon. This is a kind of a bonus session for our group class. We have a group coaching program called Mission English, where basically we work with students multiple times a day. They see me more than my family does in a lot of ways because we're basically meeting at all of these times here in New York. So we're meeting at like 9:30, 1:30, 7:30, and then a couple other additional times as well throughout the day. We meet for 30 minutes and then we talk about pronunciation topics. So today, um, Milad's hopping on with us, which is cool from our program. And Milad, you had a question for us regarding placement. Can you just kind of talk to me about what are the things that you were mentioning backstage?
Like, especially placement at different pitches.
Hmm.
When like focusing the projection of where the projection of the sound is in low pitches, in lower positions of the body, like very easier than like when it gets higher and it starts to flow and change, then I'm not sure it's not gonna be in the same spot.
Hmm. Yeah, I noticed one of the things you mentioned too is that, different people, you feel like you're hearing different
Yeah,
things, right?
placement.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's begin just kind of with the discussion on placement. So placement is what is placement? Placement is referring to where in the body are you projecting sound from? Okay. And different languages in general are using kind of a different base placement. Okay. Um, to give us an example, Mila, let's kind of use Farsi as an example, if that's okay with you. What's up to Ganshi? I'm checking this out. Um, so let's just give some vowel sounds that Farsi has as well. So, Mila, if you can say for me, can you say I, u? Can you say those three vowels for me?
Ah, he, who.
Can you do that one more time for me? U.
In English or in
In
Farsi?
Farsi. In Farsi.
Oh, ah, e, oo.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and granted I've never studied Farsi, is like
Yeah,
like
I can hear the vibration in my
ooh.
mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
My
Yeah,
teeth sort of
and
shake. Yeah,
and so it's interesting that you mentioned that vibration because that vibration, in general, you can use that vibration to kind of guide you to get an idea where your placement is. Okay, so and I feel that too. If I try to copy you, Milad, with my very limited practice, my 5 minutes of Farsi, uh, it's like e, oo, ooh, versus like the American English, like ooh. And you could probably hear a difference between those, right?
yeah.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, this is the big difference there. I'm not even necessarily shifting my tongue a whole lot. It's really where am I just projecting the sound from? Because when I'm doing those higher ones, like ooh, ooh, a lot of it is just where am I projecting from? Okay, this is placement. The biggest difference, in my opinion, between those two sounds is just where am I projecting from? Okay, so and you mentioned you could hear a difference. You can hear that
Yeah.
something is different, when I'm higher, when I'm lower. So that means that your listener can too, right? Because if I
Yeah.
talk like if I talk like this, like so now what I'm doing is I'm kind of talking with a placement that's kind of like around here, kind of close to my lower lip, front of jaw, right here, which is you can still understand everything I'm saying, but it's not the same voice that I'm using when I talk like this. So now what I just did there was I shifted things down a little bit. So we're not necessarily talking about like super super dramatic shifts necessarily, but they are shifts. It's enough that you can notice that something is a little bit different.
Off.
Right. Something, I mean, I don't even necessarily want to say off, but something doesn't sound like it does
It's very
where
strange for like native speakers and
for native
because
speakers, because
or to encounter.
this is where
Yeah.
things can start to sound a little bit accented. One of
Mm.
the factors why. Okay. So this is why I think placement's really important because if I'm talking like up here and I'm saying all the like ooh or like ooh or like ooh or ooh, if I'm changing my placement, I'm not projecting from the same spot where native speakers are. It's going to be very hard for me to achieve a natural type sound.
But like now the issue starts like when we were saying ah you, your placement right here, ah you, and there are also lower pitches, but if we use a high pitch, ah you, the placement I think goes a little higher, right?
So, okay,
I want to
so let's
find a
talk.
boundary. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah. So, for instance, one of the things that, if you guys played back to what Mila just said, for instance, when you said the word pitch, so because you kind of said when I use a higher pitch versus when I use a higher pitch. So this is where things start to get a little bit complicated because what's happening is you're giving me these sentences, but sometimes we're popping a little high. And in fact, I just did it over popping, right? Sometimes we're popping versus sometimes we're popping. Can you hear that little difference? Okay.
Yeah.
So like if I'm saying a general sentence, but occasionally my placement's like inconsistent, this is where things can start to sound a lot more accident. Okay. Placement isn't one thing I'll say about placement, and I think this kind of hints at what you're talking about. Higina's checking us out as well. What's up, Higina? Feel free to pop in. You got the link if you want to stop by. Although she may be shy. um, like I think placement is a general tendency. Okay. It's not something that everyone is going to speak from the same placement for every single thing they say at all times. There are times I'll go higher. So like for instance, right now I'm higher, right? And like
Yeah.
there's also time we're lower. So right now it's even maybe a little lower than I normally do. You know? So but I think the thing is like the general consistency. Every language has its kind of general baseline that it kind of navigates around. And what we see with the baseline in English is in general, if I'm talking, in general, I'm going to be a little lower. Okay.
And
In general.
drastically lower compared to languages.
you know, because you can probably hear different. Like if I say drastically lower versus like drastically lower, you can probably hear a difference between those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what we can take from this is that in general, if I want to speak in American English, then in general, I want my baseline to be lower. I'm not saying don't ever use higher placements, but I'm saying your general baseline when you're talking, you want to try to keep a little bit at a lower position. Okay.
So like the air goes through vocal cords or larynx,
Or
right?
I'm gonna pause you right there. So for instance, everything you just said right there, Mila, was a little high. So basically, the air goes through the lower throat or the larynx versus so basically the air goes through the lower. Do you hear that difference there? So just kind of shifting things down. Okay. But if I wanted to use a higher placement, I could so basically the air goes through, and then now you can see now I'm starting to go back down, right? So basically higher placement. The air goes through lower placement. Okay. I think the issue often comes where we get stuck. We go high and then we get stuck. So like I go high and now I'm kind of stuck here at this higher placement and this isn't the right spot at all. So I need to send it down again. But what I see with a lot of students is we never actually send it down. We get stuck at the high point. We never go down again. So sorry to interrupt you, Mila. Can you go back to your question?
Like um the placement is where the breath starts to like rise, go through the placement,
I don't think.
go through the like larynx.
hmm I don't. I personally probably wouldn't describe it as that. I wouldn't describe it as where the breath is moving through. I would describe it as where you're projecting the sound from. It's like right now I'm projecting the sound through my nose. Right now I'm projecting the sound through my lips. Right now I'm projecting the sound kind of top of throat, back of mouth. And right now I'm projecting more a lower position.
Yeah,
Okay.
what? How much low? Like where exactly?
How much lower?
Yeah. Like what's the
Um,
spot?
I
Where's the
think this is
spot?
I think this is where we need to
Yeah, I mean,
experiment.
you
And I think
think it would be different for every single person?
I'll put it like this. So like one thing I see, some people point to people are like, oh well, Chris Rock or like Chris Tucker. If you're familiar with those actors, they're like, oh, but these guys have a high placement. No, I don't actually think they have a high placement. I think if you try to imitate them, you may need to use a high placement. But for your placement is relative to your own body. You know, so some people, like for instance, for you, Mila, I think your vocal register is a little higher than mine. I think my vocal register is a little lower than yours. Okay, it's like
Um,
if I want to imitate you, I have to slightly raise my placement. Okay, but for you, like, can you say an ah sound for me with a low placement for you? Like
like very high or like the
like
tendency of lower placement.
the tendency low placement, like in American English.
Uh,
Yeah, so like for instance, if I wanted to imitate you, so I feel like for your body, that was a low placement for you. But if I wanted to imitate you, I would have to go a little bit higher because I would have to do more versus Hear a difference between and Can you hear a difference?
yeah,
Okay, so they're similar, but if I'm trying to imitate you, I have to personally, for me, go a little bit higher than what I would do naturally. But that's not to say that you are using a high placement. You're using a low placement for your body. So I'm asking that everyone kind of use a low placement for your own body, for your own individual experience. Okay? Does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay. Um, Now, I know that we've also mentioned some other topics, like for instance, like breath and things like that, right? So, for breath, a lot of times what we find is that by using our diaphragm, and if you're not sure where your diaphragm is, again, your diaphragm is located kind of below your chest. This is my chest. This is my stomach down here. So your diaphragm's kind of in this area. It's below your lungs. Okay, because it's acting on your lungs, you know. So by engaging your diaphragm more when you talk, you naturally are able to lower your placement. Okay. When you just use your lungs, it naturally kind of raises your placement. And a lot of people, a lot of English learners are not. I'm not to say you're not using your diaphragm at all. You need your diaphragm to breathe, otherwise no one would be alive. But when we're talking, we're maybe not engaging it enough. And that's why for a lot of people, for those of you in your first language, if you sing in your first language, you probably sound a little bit different than when you talk. And one of the reasons for that is when you sing, you have to use your diaphragm. You see this a lot with a lot of British singers. British English in general has a slightly higher placement, I would say, than American English does. But you see singers like, for instance, like Adele or like Ozzy Osbourne. These guys that when they talk, they have very clear British accents, but then they sing and they sound pretty American level. And part of the reason for that is because they're just using their diaphragm so much more air is passing through. Okay. I see a question here from Rosh. Thanks for being with us. How do we do that? Can you be a little bit more specific with your question? Is the question how do we lower placement? How do we use the diaphragm? If you could just be a little bit more specific, I'll be able to give you the best guidance. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question. Okay. Um, Milad, other questions, comments, concerns, fears, frustrations, pain points?
Um, like about pitches,
Okay.
when we pitch to change the pitch level and we change the floor, um, it's very much more easier for me to focus on my like vocal cords from down to up to like the chest, upper chest. Is that a problem? Because even if I focus on low placement, projecting from low, I kind of feel that movement from thought group to thought group, going up and down, stuff like that.
Maybe this will be easier if we have an example so you can kind of demonstrate for me and everyone can kind of understand what you're describing. Okay, so here's a little paragraph. This is the paragraph. So one thing to know, in our Mission English group, what we have, um, and again, in case you're just joining us, hi. This is a quick little preview of what our Mission English program is like, where people join me on screen, we ask questions and things like that. Milad has the advantage today of just having my undivided attention because normally there's other people, which is cool. Um, but one of the things we do every month in Mission English is we have a paragraph that we introduce at the beginning of the month, and then we have the month to kind of analyze it and discuss what's going on. Um, and then we review it one more time at the end of the month, so you can kind of study on your own and then kind of practice. And then throughout the month, we give you some guidance. So here's our paragraph from the month of July. Milad. Can you kind of demonstrate for me a little bit about the situation you were describing?
Like by reading this?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Did getting on a stage, is that just like the thing that helps you not be afraid?
I'll stop you there.
Because
I'll stop you there.
yep,
Okay, so can you again rephrase for me your question, the original question?
like when thought group to thought group we change the pitch,
Right. Uh-huh.
I
And I heard you
feel
doing that.
that in my throughout my local course, like there, I imagine in my mind like there's different floors in my larynx,
Uh-huh.
and I use comp, different levels of them
Hmm.
when I'm
That's interesting. So
saying.
you're really so the concept I was referring to is that when you go from thought group to thought group, you want to change the pitch level. And I heard you doing that, Mila. So you're like the getting up on a stage, I think you started a little higher and then you dropped a little bit, right? Is that just
Mm.
like the getting up on a stage higher? Is that just lower, like lower, the thing that helps you? Is getting up on a stage, is that just like the thing that, do you hear how like we're constantly kind of shifting and things like that? So one of the things you're mentioning is the floors. You're really associating them with a very physical thing. You're like attaching them almost to your larynx. I guess I'm not, when I do it, I'm not really having that sort of physical association, but do whatever works for you.
Mm.
So if you find that that helps you do the shifts, cool. I don't have an issue with that. I'm paying more attention personally to like the sound. Like I notice right now I'm here, so now I'm going to send it lower. I'm not really thinking about larynx or chest or things like that. I'm just thinking about okay, this is the sound. How do I send it lower? How do I send it higher? How do I send it really low? How do I send it really high? Like I'm just kind of constantly thinking about things like that. Honesty. Yeah.
It's also energy then gets more important and you want to go higher, no matter wherever you started, you know?
I don't know if I would
If you
agree with
want to
that.
put emphasis.
I think sometimes
Right.
doing the opposite. I think sometimes going lower makes things sound
Yeah, but
emphasized.
that's very like unique situations.
You think
Like
so?
I think most of the time by going higher, they emphasize.
I think there's a lot of undervalue put on understatements and making things actually by weakening something you can actually make it sound stronger. Don't get me wrong, you can also go higher too. That's certainly a technique as well. But
Yeah.
the problem is that, you know, if you only use a hammer, then every object looks like a nail. You know what I mean? But at some point, we need to have some other. we need to add some other tools to our kit, right?
Yeah.
Um, I want to address some things that came in really quick. Gantia mentioning that singers use their diaphragms frequently. Yeah, for sure. Um, Boost Up English is here. Great. Thanks for checking us out again. Use vocal warm-up exercises, strengthen the diaphragm, and build muscle memory. Um, Thanks also to Mahendra. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. They're watching and they say be happy and be peaceful. That's nice. How do we engage the diaphragm more? Um, the biggest thing I'm going to say is if you go to our channel, give me a moment. My apologies if this causes us to lag. Um, 1 second. Give me 1 second. Almost have this. So how do we engage the diaphragm more? I'll show you one exercise to do, but in case you're looking for more exercises as well, if you go to our channel, okay, hey, look, there's us. There's me and Mila. If you go down to how to breathe in American English, these are all videos that are centered around breath. All these. So if you do these, it's going to give you probably about 6, 7, 8, 9 different breath exercises you can do to engage your diaphragm. Okay, so if you're looking for specific things to work on, if you go to our homepage, go down to that playlist that says How to Breathe in American English, it's going to walk you through all the exercises I use with my students, including in our group classes. Um, One quick exercise I would just say is just like a quick exercise you can do is first of all, just kind of breathe. Okay, so just take like a big breath in, breathe in through your nose, and then breathe out through your mouth. And it may be helpful to take your hands and put your hands on your stomach. So like put your hands like right here as you do it. So again, breathe in. And then it's hard because I'm not profile. Let me go profile so you guys can see the movement a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to breathe in and breathe out. And you can see that movement there. You can see when we breathe in, things push out, and then you breathe out, and things push in again. Right? So that's a sign that you're using your diaphragm. If you get that sort of movement, that means your diaphragm's engaging. The problem is a lot of people, when they talk, they're not getting that movement inward because they're not really fully engaging your diaphragm. They're not fully expelling breath. Okay, a lot of the languages that we speak, a lot of our first languages cut breath. Okay, you can say, like, for instance, a sound that your first language probably has, Raj, is the ah sound. Okay, so if I say the ah sound 3 times and I'm not engaging my diaphragm, I might get a sound that's kind of like ah, ah, ah. Okay, you can hear how it gets cuts every single time. Ah, ah, ah. Okay, whereas if I'm engaging my diaphragm and adding some breath, it might sound more like ah, ah, ah. You ever seen ah, 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 and ah, ah, ah? Yeah, can you hear a difference between those? Um,
Yeah. Also,
okay.
the thing placement is higher in that position.
In the first one, when I cut the breath,
Mm. It's
yeah,
like in the
yeah,
mouth. Yeah.
you tend to be because it never has an opportunity, right? We're just never giving ourselves a chance. Okay, so just some things to consider there with breath. So to go back to our original exercise, so you breathed in and you breathed out and you felt that movement. So now this time, let's do that again. We're going to breathe in, but this time as we exhale, let's say ah. So for instance, ah, and you're going to notice that the vowel finishes, but the breath keeps moving, right? Ah, you can hear how the breath keeps moving even after the vowel sound finishes. Okay, this can be one technique you can do to keep the breath moving. Again, I would encourage you to check out that playlist because there's many other exercises you can do to make sure that you're engaging your diaphragm, but that's something to kind of get you started. Um, Mila,
Also,
did you have
laugh more. It
so one of the
really
things,
helps.
if you want it for sure. So what I would say is laughing. So like I'm not talking about the fake like ah ha ha. No, like like the real laugh like like that like real laugh like sometimes when you laugh a lot, you can feel your stomach getting sore. Well, it's not really your stomach getting sore, it's your diaphragm because your diaphragm's like a muscle and it's like engaging a lot. Okay. That's a sign that you're using your diaphragm. So that's another way you can kind of check to see if you're engaging your diaphragm. And by the way, when you laugh for real, the real sound you're making is actually like an American English schwa sound. Like when you do a real laugh, or like that sound, like was or fun or because, like things like that. It's the schwa over and over again, which is a very American sound. Um, and it sounds very common in American English. So those are just some things to consider for diaphragm. Um, Mila, any other comments just about breath, diaphragm work, and things like that?
Not really.
Okay.
Then we
Um,
should like always focus to go low, 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 low. Even when we're high.
like I mentioned before, there's going to be times where things are going to creep higher for sure. But the general tendency again in American English is if you're not sure where you should be, a low placement is a safe choice. Safe doesn't always mean best, but it's a safe choice if you're not sure where to bet. Right. Um, Checking our comments again. Gotcha. Mentioned singers practice lower keys using diaphragm, loud breath. My heart pitch there not going difficult. Yeah, for sure. If you think of like, for instance, like I mentioned in group uh, yesterday, opera singers. What are opera singers doing? The opera singers are able to fill an entire room using just their voice. They're not using microphones. It's just their voice. You know, um, the only way you're able to do that is by using your diaphragm. It's the only way you're able to do that. Okay. Um, Hello to Rick. Are we still alive? Do you know me? If it's Riddick, I do. Mila, were you in the group when Riddick was here? I don't know if it was before your time.
No, I didn't see anybody.
Got you. Okay, maybe a little bit before you came on. But hey, thanks for hanging with us for a bit. Boost Up English also has some notes about the diaphragm. Try to think about using your voice coming from your diaphragm instead of forward from your mouth. Yeah, exactly. Because if I think about using my mouth, look what happened to my placement. And this is the issue that we see. Like a lot of us are so focused on consonant sounds, but a lot of our consonant sounds are coming from positions that are closer to here. Like if I think of like a n sound, like n, n. Well, now my placement kind of shifts forward too because I'm so focused on that higher tongue position, like n. When in reality, it's not really like that. It's more of a n, n. It's not n, n. It's more n, n. So just kind of a note about that. Um, yeah, we always have to be careful with consonant sounds. And Rick says, "There, Rick. Cool. Good to see you." Um, all right, I'll probably hang around for like another 5 minutes or so. Milad, did you have other questions or things that you'd like to practice with me while we have you here?
When I was reading the paragraph, did you see anything off about placement?
Uh, Granted, it was a couple minutes ago, so but the big thing that stood out to me was I could hear you kind of shifting things around. Um,
Do you think that hides the weird placement, or I'm overthinking most of the time? Do
can you rephrase the question for me?
you think like having different pitches, makes a person vibrant and not boring? So do you think that hides the truth? Their placement might be a little bit weird, off.
That's a good question. One thing I'm going to say too, I'm just going to extend an invitation. So again, this is in case you're just joining us. Hi. Um, you're going to see I'm joined by Milad. Milad is a member of our Mission English program. It's our group coaching program that meets several times during the week, multiple times. Basically, we're doing between 40 and 50 classes a month at this schedule, which is insane, right? Multiple times a day. I'm going to be meeting with Milad probably again around 1:30 because I'm guessing he's going to come. But yeah, so we're meeting multiple times a day. It's a group coaching program. Sometimes there's even opportunities for like one-on-one sessions as well. So if you're liking what you're hearing and you want to have these sorts of discussions with me and practicing your American English to achieve a much more natural sound, we're not going for clarity. We're going for natural. You want to actually sound natural in American English using these concepts like placement, pitch, breath, and things like that. Um, you might like our group coaching program. Or if you just kind of want to watch our classes, you can also be a channel member because channel members get access to the videos as well. You can chat with us live. Um, also want to, and I will answer your question in a minute, Mila. In case anyone wants to hop on with us, I would say I'll hang on a little bit longer. I would say if anyone wants to appear on screen with us and ask some questions or things like that, I'm going to extend a quick invitation to you. I've just posted a link. Um, you don't need to have your webcam on, but you need to have a microphone and headset. And if the audio is not good, unfortunately, I can't keep you on screen. But if you want to hang with us, ask some pronunciation questions live, let me click that link there. Mila was asking, can using, and feel free to correct me if I missay anything, Mila. Your question was, can using a wider range of pitches kind of hide issues with placement? Is that the thing? And yeah, I think it can. I think that just like using breath and using a wider range of pitches, I think can make you sound more natural to someone who is perfectly pronouncing every syllable, in all honesty. Because a lot of the biggest issues that I see with students is that they don't have enough contrast with their speech. Pitches are super important for us. Um, Hisham also has a question for you, Milad, if you're willing to answer. Milad, where are you from?
Unfortunately.
Dak. Milad's about to move also. No, he's not. Yeah. But is it okay if I say that you're a Farsi speaker? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually Parsi. Farsi is Arabic.
That's got you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the correction. Um, couple the other things here. I know everything like breath and placement. I feel like all these things as well, but really hard to do. Yeah, I mean, it's all. If they weren't hard to do, like everyone would be doing it. You know, these things take time. How much do you want to work? If you're serious about pronunciation and getting that natural sound, those things will work at. If you're just like, I just want to be understandable, don't do it. Who cares? Stop watching my channel. My channel's not probably for you. We know we're really focused on people that are trying to sound natural. Um, for example, how you know if someone speaking English is using their diaphragm? Well, you can hear the resonance when you use your diaphragm. You hear that kind of like low vibration and things like that. Um, I see Mira's with us. Milad, you ready to meet a friend?
Let's see.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Likewise. So my name is Jeff. How do I pronounce your name?
Mer.
There. Kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay, great. And how can I help you today?
yeah. I like maybe to receive like some feedback about my placement. How do you like hear it? Is it good enough?
Okay. Thanks for asking your question. Thanks for being on. So one thing I'm going to notice here is that you're falling into some pretty regular patterns. So you're kind of like talking like this, like over and over again. I don't know if Milad, you noticed that too. Um, this is a super common pattern I see with students, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
A lot of people. What this is often indicative of is a lack of shifting pitch, shifting
yeah.
pitch levels as we change thought groups.
Okay.
Because if I talk like this, then what I'm doing is I'm just repeating the same pattern. But if I talk like this, now I'm changing the levels.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so the first thing I'm going to really recommend for you, even before we get to placement discussions, is hey, I would really encourage you to practice pitches and shifting
yeah,
pitches with thought groups. I think that's probably the thing that's going to have the most immediate impact. Um, let's talk about your placement a little bit. I'm going to give you a couple of sounds to say. Can you say E for me? E.
E, E,
Hmm.
E,
Can you say ah for me? Ah.
ah, ah, ah,
Okay. Can you say oo for me? Ooh.
ooh, ooh, ooh.
Okay. So Milad, I'm going to start with you. What do you notice about how these are sounding?
Most of them were low, kind of low, at like ooh was very high.
Okay. So
Ooh, like that.
I think all
It
these
wasn't
have some
terrible. Like
no, it definitely was not terrible. No, we could understand all the sounds, which is great. I do think a lot of these are trending a little bit high. Okay. Um, yeah, if you can say for me like ah e ooh, can you do that for me? Ah e
Yeah,
ooh.
yeah, of course, yeah. E, ooh,
You got
e, ooh.
perfect. So what I'm hearing in Milad, you can tell me if you hear what I'm hearing. It's like ah e ooh versus e ooh. Can you guys hear that difference?
yeah.
So this is what we're talking about. I think your placement does trend a little high, I'll be honest.
Yeah, maybe like with words will be better because it's like the first time like that I try to
Okay.
say
So
a like this. So
so
maybe with single word. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
I'm gonna pause you right there because everything you're saying right there is high. You're
Okay.
kind of like talking like this for like everything you're saying is kind of versus now I'm using my diaphragm and now we're going a little bit lower on everything.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So like can you tell me where do you live right now? What country do you live in?
Berlin,
Okay.
Germany.
Perfect. Okay. So let's a quick exercise for you, and then we can ask
Yeah.
a final question if you have any. Can you say the sentence "I live in Berlin," and we're going to say it 5 times and move down. I'll give you an example. I live in Berlin. 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 Can you
Okay.
do that for me?
Yeah. I live in Berlin. I live in Berlin. I live in Berlin. I live in Berlin. I live in
We
Berlin. Okay.
Oh, there it is. Mila, did you hear that last one was a little bit lower than the previous ones? Okay, because the first four got stuck. It's like I live in Berlin, I live in Berlin, I live in Berlin, I live in Berlin. But then that last one, finally, we got to like I live in Berlin. We got a little bit lower on that last one. So I would encourage you,
Yeah.
um, once once we let you go, I would encourage you to go back into stream where you just said that and see if you can hear that difference between that last one you just did and the first four.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And that
yeah, I can hear it, but for me, maybe it's more is too low to speak like this. Maybe
what suggests to you that it's too low?
like the last one that I did was lower than normal for me, and if I had to speak like this, would be like difficult. Maybe I don't know.
Okay. Does the fact that it's difficult make you not want to do it?
No, no, of course, yeah, but like if I have to imagine myself speaking so low, like I live in Berlin, I live in Berlin. If I were to speak, like it's strange, maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
I have to try. Yeah, I have to try. Absolutely.
I'm gonna bounce to Milad. Milad, did you hear how he just said I live in Berlin those two times? Did you hear those two?
Yeah, way
They
lower
sounded
than the
they
first
sounded
ones. Yeah,
did they sound more natural to you than the other ones, Milad?
yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
gotta start adapting to this.
Look, if you're I know it's gonna feel weird to us. It
Yeah,
has to. If it doesn't feel
Yeah,
weird, you're doing what feels comfortable. But what feels comfortable to you? Your first language.
yeah,
So we have to make a choice. Do we want to feel comfortable or do we want to sound natural in the second language?
yeah. No, it's true. It's true. Yeah, of
Okay.
course. But
So if you don't feel meaningful change, if it doesn't feel weird, then you're not making a change. You're just
yeah,
gonna sound like you've always sounded. Stop
yeah,
being
yeah,
afraid.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's a pronunciation is it's a fear thing. We're afraid to do the things we need to do. Um, what I would say, go back in the stream and listen to those little changes when you went lower.
Okay,
And if
okay.
and if you're and if you if sounding more natural in American English is a real goal for you, then we have to kind of embrace that discomfort. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be painful, but it should feel weird.
Okay, okay.
If I wanted to speak your language, I would need to change my placement. I would need things to feel weird to me.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
All right.
Makes sense. Okay.
I'm gonna let you bounce in a moment, but any final questions for me before I let
No,
you
no,
go?
thanks. Thanks.
Cool. Hey, thanks for being with us. Hopefully that's helpful,
Bye,
okay?
guys. Bye.
All right,
Bye, bye.
take care. Good to meet you. Take care. Bye. Thanks also for watching the channel. We appreciate that. A couple of chats came in. Um, Rick asked earlier, can you do an Indian accent and tell me what's placement and breath difference between both of them? I mean, it'd be much easier if I had a model. But I can tell you what are the general characteristics of a lot of your Indian languages and dialects. Very similar to what we see with other languages. High placement, weak vowel sounds, really strong consonant sounds, and not a lot of pitch contrast. So to give a quick example, let's use the sentence like we'll use the sentence I live in Berlin again. Okay. So if I wanted to say this sentence and I wanted to kind of characterize what are the features of a lot of Indian languages when they're pronouncing this. So what I'll need to do is firstly I'm going to need to cut the vowel sounds. So instead of saying I'll probably need to do like I. Instead of saying live, I'll probably need to do like live. Um, Instead of doing in, I'll probably need to do in. And then instead of Berlin, I need to say like Berlin. The other thing I'm going to need to do is I'm probably going to need to raise my placement a little higher. So like instead of saying I, instead of saying live with a low placement, I need to go higher, like leave, like I live in, like I live in Berlin, I live in Berlin, I live in Berlin, versus like I live in Berlin, I live in Berlin, I live in Berlin, I live in Berlin, and like firmer consonant sounds and things like that. So like a lot of times when you hear like an accent that kind of sounds like this, what am I doing? I am cutting my vowel sounds and I'm strengthening my consonants and I'm limiting my pitches. Versus if I talk like this, well now I'm lengthening my vowel sounds, I'm adding more breath and more diaphragm and things like that. Okay. A big thing for Indian language, we have to give more space to our vowels. We have to add a lot more pitch contrast. Have to. If the goal is changing this sound. Mila?
yeah. By focusing on vowel sounds, your sound will start to resonate. Crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it adds a lot more diaphragm and breath. Yeah. Um, she's speaking and even okay. Rick sent a link. Unfortunately, YouTube is it going to allow people in the chat to send links? Unfortunately, because it's spam. Paste the link above in the video. She speak different accent, Indian perfect, Indian accent with proper placement. Yeah, I mean placement is going to be really helpful, right? And things. You know, a lot of people when you hear them, like a lot of people who have really kind of mastered these concepts of placement and breath, when they switch between languages, it almost sounds like they're a different person. Like they almost sound like a completely different person when they speak in a different language because of how dramatically they're changing their placement and stuff like that. Yeah. Because Gina says, "Get out of your comfort zone, man." Gina's savage. um, all right. Um, cool. Any final questions for me here?
So back in to placement, do you think like should be in upper chest or like at the end of the larynx vocal cords because we have so much opportunities for lower pitches there.
In terms
We
of
should
placement?
aim, yeah, we should aim way lower.
Yeah, you know, again, I don't personally like attach it to like a physical area. I don't think like, okay, this is my larynx. I'm gonna, be here. I'm thinking more about kind of especially like sound quality and like the depth of the sound and how much resonance I'm doing. But again, do what works for you. Um, do those actually like those breath exercises we did earlier, or things we talked about in the video. Try to make sure you're feeling like your ribs contracting, as you breathe. That can be really helpful for make sure you're in the right spot, things like that. You know, those would be kind of the things I'd be focusing on. Okay. Um, yeah. Gotcha. Mentioning some other features of a lot of Indian languages. Weak vowels, heavy consonant sounds, not many reductions. Yeah. Okay. All right. With that, I'm gonna head out. But hey, thanks everyone for hanging out with us. I'll see you all later. Thanks to Mila for being with me as well. I appreciate you, sir.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, everyone. You guys take care. Enjoy your Thursday, and I'll see you all later. Take care.